2, 1, boost ignition, and liftoff, and all systems are go.
Welcome to the Lesbo and the Bean universe. Lesbo and the Bean. LaTB, LaTB, where mixed martial arts and the UFC get silly. Big silly. Buckle up and move your tray tables to their upright position. And please, somebody shut that baby up. It's time for Lesbo and the Bean.
Welcome back. Episode 166. Here we go. Another one going down. We have a pay-per-view main event breakdown to do. But before all that, I'm so glad here at LaTB we broke this show into two parts. Because literally as soon as we uploaded our last show, John Jones, again, letting us down, but the UFC's working with him, and they're moving an entire card, unprecedented. The week before, we've had it happen the day before with their first inaugural fight ever, but now with an established organization that it is, to move from zero tax for the fighters to 30% in California, out of Inglewood, California. We're going to get UFC 223. If you're living under a rock, you ain't listening here.
You know how conspiratorial we are, too? This is like, what in the hell?
Unbelievable. We've never seen this.
And for our fans ahead of time, this is the second take at the show. One day, the first take will be on a blooper reel or on something for you guys. Whatever, it doesn't matter. But this beginning is way better already.
Good. It's definitely working out.
John Jones.
John Jones. DC has had quite a bit to say because officially what's happened, John Jones tested positive for T-ball for the second time. This is what he popped for in 2017, which, again, you fool me once, you can't fool me again. But, again, the UFC working with the fighter, moving the entire card, 13 bouts over to California. The interesting things that have happened since this week, many undercard fighters, including Amanda Nunes and Cris Cyborg, are like, okay, because being a part of John Jones on a pay-per-view, you're getting paid an exposure that you wouldn't. And a kind of byproduct that has happened since these controversial things happening is John Jones is more famous now than he ever was since the last time he had a pregnant lady. Like, people that didn't know about this fight now know, what? There's some guy that popped on steroids and they're still letting him fight? It's breaking into the boundary of just drama, TMZ for your mama stuff. This is getting front page news on all sorts of other outlets. But how do you feel about these undercard fighters, better I say, that are now having to get charged 30% in-state tax for fighting in California and have no say because they've been waiting 6 months for a fight. They haven't gotten paid in that time.
Or some fighters wouldn't take it. There's something so shady about this that's bigger than a John Jones drug test. Dana says that in Vegas they were like going to make $6 million or something, but they're only stand to make like 1.5 gate in Los Angeles. And then the fighter, or the audience people, like if you and I got tickets to go to this fight, if we already had tickets in Vegas, right, there's a few hour window that we get precedence to buy tickets in Los Angeles, that nobody else gets, right, the chance to buy tickets. Cheapest tickets are over $500.
Not only,
and I don't know if that's normal for a UFC fight at this caliber for the cheapest tickets to be that expensive, but I think it's a significantly smaller place.
Agreed.
What favor is this filling? This is such a weird thing to me. Well, like, was John Jones about to be killed from a gambling debt and this is how he has to repay his debt? Or was Dana? Or this is like such next level.
I agree.
So much money. This costs so much money for John Jones to fight. Who cares? Take that motherfucker down. Who cares? We got a big fight with Cyborg and Amanda. What about the end of the year to squeeze this into 12/29 was so important?
The interesting thing is Jeff Novinsky and Dana White have had a press conference with the media talking about the specifics of John Jones' case and why they're willing to move it to California. because California Athletic Commission is willing to upstand that the USADA does acknowledge that Jon Jones popped for Tyrannoball again, but they feel like it is, the iconic saying was salt, a teaspoon of salt in an Olympic-sized swimming pool. Now they're saying it's a grain of sand cut 5,000 times. That's the amount of level that USADA is able to identify. So if anything,
those.
That's how they explained it away.
I understand. I think that those are tactics that you can use on whoever, like the assholes who believe the news. Like, tell the people who are hypnotized by that to tell me something. You got to tell me something different.
I agree, and I think Joey Diaz on Joe Rogan broke it down.
This is a good point.
Immediately, Joey Diaz saying he was a former felon who had to take piss tests, and they can trace through stuff back in the 70s a few months beforehand. So he understands the system, and the only question you have to have is, did Jon Jones pop on any test before this? No.
Joe Rogan.
You can hear the edible diffusing into his
Joe
body
Rogan.
as he speaks.
Listen to me, Joe Rogan. Did he have this in any of his other tests in between? And now he has it in his test? That means he took it again, Joe Rogan!
He fucking doing it again, Joe Rogan.
He did it again, Joe Rogan.
He eats those gummy bears, Joe Rogan. Eating those gummies. You know those baseball players eating those gummies.
I don't fuck with those gummies anymore, Joe Rogan. They're gonna kill me. They're gonna kill me, Joe Rogan.
So, definitely, I feel like the most newest of fans can easily see that there's all sorts of fuckery going around, and the fact that UFC is willing to bend over backwards in this new WME age is really something to say of what's come ahead. I mean, UFC and WME have already talked about how the USADA, WADA, Yamama, NADA, all those commissions are going to kind of be put in the back of the row or back of the line as far as what they care about, and this is a big step towards that. But UFC's playing with fire. I mean, they're opening up themselves for lawsuits. This is my asthma boy Brock Lesnar, Mark Hunt lawsuit type of range.
I'm just putting on my conspiracy hat and I'm gonna just unpack this.
All right, let's go.
One is part of it, they owe something to their Fox contract for one more big fight before the end of the year, so they don't balk on anything. That if this card doesn't run through with a caliber or a certain watch number, and it has to be a pay-per-view, I bet, to, like, somewhere it's an agreement passed. Could it have anything to do with the Fox contract of getting out of it before moving to ESPN? Could it have anything to do with mafia ties? The state taxes are a really big thing. Why California all of a sudden? Which isn't California also the one that wasn't Jon Jones suspended for like 2 years in California?
From California for this exact test. The test that they referred to initially in 2017 was from a California State Athletic Commission ruling.
Which means he wouldn't be eligible until 2019 because it was 2 years. So it's weird. I just thought, oh, well, they're not going to fight in California. I just figured that's why they were doing it in Vegas.
And Tom Lawler got a 2-year suspension and fired right before it was up. The preferentiality that it shows towards fighters of why Leslie Smith, underdog for life, has been talking about for these reasons alone. If you're not winning, whatever that means, you're not getting the UFC behind you. And if you are winning, then they're willing to change an entire fight card. Do you think Amanda Nunes versus Cris Cyborg would have been able to headline this pay-per-view and actually make it worthwhile for the UFC?
Here's the other thing I was thinking that was conspiratorial, but whatever.
All right.
Is there any chance, because Amanda Nunes and Cris Cyborg are probably the 1 and 2 biggest female stars in Brazil. And we know how important the Brazilian audience is for the UFC. Is there any possibility that they don't want Cris Cyborg to headline this card and it get 400 or 500,000 views because her contract is up after this fight? And same might be said for Amanda Nunes. And friggin' if Amanda Nunes isn't smart enough to know it, her fucking wife is, or girlfriend or partner or whatever, her wife is smart enough to know that what her worth is. And both those women, they could have a lot of weight. And I think you don't want them to be up for contract and know that all of a sudden they're pulling your third most behind Conor McGregor and Jon Jones in the UFC. You know what I mean? And I think Cris could have that kind of weight. Everyone knows her in the fight community. Look how Gabby Garcia, she's so valuable over in Asia and out in Japan. So you were telling me Cris Cyborg wouldn't be that valuable? You're telling me Cris Cyborg wouldn't be that valuable out there?
I think you have a very, very good point.
Or Amanda Nunes for that matter?
Agreed. And the thing that I feel like the UFC's completely fallen flat on regardless is Amanda Nunes is a 135-pound champion, right?
Yes.
Moving up the challenge for the 145. This is TJ Dillashaw in reverse.
Cooler. She's stepping up.
She's stepping up.
It's like
and they're
GSP
just not even
level.
talking about it. And it's like, no, this is a champion trying to get that double belt. And ain't easy peasy.
She's stepping up and she's fighting
Cyborg.
Cris Cyborg.
And she has a real
raising up
shot.
the said, I'll take that fight.
Okay, well, it took a little coercion. She wasn't.
She called her out.
Oh, never mind. Mata Leon. I mean Leon herself.
Yeah, the lioness called her out.
The lioness. So
it would have been a lot, but we were just talking about the prelims earlier and how big Andrei Arlovsky versus Walt Harris, Megan, which I called her Megan sometimes in Australians. I know, I'm sorry, Megan Anderson versus Kat Zingano. Their fight could be moved to the main card. Peter Yan versus Douglas Andrade could be moved to the main card. BJ Penn, Ryan Hall could be moved to the main card. Like, these are all big enough names that to just be, if you just had, yes, it's not Jon Jones. They shouldn't be the headline. They shouldn't be the headline, but you already got a 5-round belt that's up. Is it as big as Jon Jones? No, but I'm kind of over Jon Jones in that same way McGregor. I'm an MMA fan enough. I don't need them on every fight to be stoked.
I agree. That's what makes this so interesting about how they're willing to just potentially screw up so many fighters in the transition, because they also have coaches, family, staff, that
traveled all the way from other countries
to get here, and they have hotels in Las Vegas, not California. Now they have to book a whole other charge. Do you think those other hotels care? No, they're going to want to keep their money. Some fighters don't make that much money. Just weird. But interesting factor of all that takes in effect. And we do have to put it into our
They got to do something, Joe Rogan. Maybe Uber can do something. They got to do something. It ain't right.
So UFC has officially come out and told that they will provide transportation for fighters starting
that seems
the
like
whole
Hurricane
time.
Katrina.
Exactly.
That seems like a nightmare.
It's such a
It
headache.
just seems like I don't trust it.
Not only all that, you've already started a weight cut. And now you have to take 3 to 4 hours out of your day, which could be make it or break it for you. So I think that the weigh-ins are pivotal here. You got to watch the weigh-ins on Friday night.
Certain fighters went there 2 weeks ahead of time to get acclimated. And now they're
100%.
driving
And
4
now
hours through the desert.
And they say it's not a big deal. I've done that drive many a times.
It could be an 8-hour drive all of a sudden.
It could be, but if you're from somewhere you don't know, I mean, or they're flying all the way around, we got to stay into it. This is
trying to get
funky. There's definitely some other backdoor stuff that's going on that we're going to find out 10 years from now. Like, oh, remember when that happened with Jon Jones?
I like to call it FAF. Fuckery afoot. There
Agreed.
is fuckery afoot. Hashtag FAF.
So are you still going to watch? I know there's been a big contingency of Twitter fans trying to boycott this pay-per-view. You know how we do here on LaTB. Streaming live.
Look at you guys. You know how self-righteous I am. I would love to boycott, but I run a podcast that's based around MMA. It doesn't do me any good to not come at you with the information. So just for you guys, I will be watching.
Definitely.
Fuck Jon Jones. I'm not supposed to watch the 2 best woman fighters in the world fight each other. Fuck Jon Jones. Sorry. I don't even give a shit. Will I turn off at Jon Jones? No.
Not a bit.
Because why should Gus trained? I want to see now if Gus can beat that ass.
Hey, and Gus is openly like, okay, he's on rocket juice. Let's go. Love it, Gus. Of course. But, I mean, everybody's put in a hard situation because people have been waiting for this paycheck for a long time. And they're about to get it taken away. Brian Boom Kelleher tweeting saying, hey, what if we all decided to say no and not have the fight? Well, the pay-per-view would be pulled, but that's not going to happen because he even said so himself in a later post. Like,
He's
fighters
the first
ain't
fight
going
of
to
the
do it.
night.
He better be careful. Boom Kelleher. Leslie Smith will teach you something. I should be on the other side of that. I should say, let's go, Boom. We need to get a
Like
union in here.
whistleblowers.
Yeah, exactly. But
They'll eat themselves. People will jump ship. It'll be the new model is that you're in the UFC for blank time and then you go somewhere else, and then one of those other organizations will eventually have enough meat that they eat the UFC.
UFC isn't doing itself any favors in this really short time frame, especially ending out the year, which most shows, most media tends to round out the year. This is going to be the last taste they leave in the mouth of fans.
This is just John Jones doing John Jones.
Like
a tiger. Go to Tiger.
Back. Did I hear last podcast he's back? Because that's 100% right. 100% spot on. This is John Jones back to his nefarious same ways. John Jones wants to be the hero, but he's the villain.
Is he the greatest ever if he's been dirty the entire time?
Yes. Everybody's on steroids. Diaz brothers, a la quote Diaz brothers. Everybody's on steroids. This proves it more and more. The more
But it's always John Jones that we say it about.
Everybody's on steroids. I do not. I think that the more I've seen, the more it's more true. There's very few fighters I would think are on. Brian Ortega, T-City. He's on steroids. Look at his body.
He has T in his name.
Good point.
T-City. T-City.
All right, I feel like, have we been teasing enough the pay-per-view
I think Max
main
Holloway's
event?
clean.
I would agree with that.
BJ Penn's clean.
I don't know about that one. I feel like he's popped maybe once or twice.
Back when everybody in the whole UFC
Everybody's on steroids. I'm just saying. Everybody is on steroids. I do not care. The more and more I see, even the people that used to, John Finch, even though he's not in the organization, he used to be a big proponent against it, but he's popped at his new home a few times already. So, everybody.
I think a perfect way to roll into the opening fight for the main card
is
UFC 232 main card right now. We still have John Jones. And it was funny because after the last show, we listened to, and we want you guys, if you want to listen back to the LaTBs and make your own categories, whatever, if you want us to put up the categories ahead of time, you can listen to the show and write them down or agree or disagree, whatever. But last year, my biggest disappointment was John Jones. And I said to you while we were listening to the LaTB Awards, I hope it's not John Jones again. And you said, there's still time.
He's back, baby. He is back.
Oh, my gosh.
John Jones. A year ago, we were saying these exact same things. And it's funny how history repeats itself. Cyclical time frame. But
he pops again. 2 more years go by. End of the year, he does another fight. Isn't that the exact same thing that happens with Brock Lesnar? The exact same. 2 years pops, then he does another fight.
What a time of year we have. What a fun time of year. LaTB's coming soon at ya. But before all that, like and subscribe. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. The breakdown goes on. The underdogs keep coming through. We got money to make. This has been a high-profile betting bout so far. I've been consulting with Evil Twin a little bit, and that De Silva, a hint we were saying that's going to be a close fight. Evil Twin, which, he kind of is in the same boat. Actually, he's taking a stab at D'Andrade, but I don't feel like my fights have changed, even though I do have to take into consideration that these fighters, and I am watching on social media, what they're doing to try to help the move go easier from Las Vegas to Nevada. Have you picked up anything on those previous fights before we get into the 5-card main event?
I almost could go back through all of them, and I have gone back and forth. I feel good about Brian Kelleher. I think he's going to withstand I think he's going to have the better gas tank and withstand a lot of the beating. Azara.
Yeah, Hazara.
I feel okay about that. I've gone actually back and forth a little bit. Uriah Hall.
I actually switched back and forth. I'm back on Lewis again. That fight, and I agree. Such a fun pay-per-view. Listen back to the previous show to get all those hints and tips. Follow us
Do you
on our
agree
Twitter.
with yourself on the last show? That's what I'm saying. If
I
we're gonna go back through it,
I agree with myself. I've already listened to the last show because I like to critique myself as best as I can, and I'm just like, no, I still stand behind those methods of victory for those fighters. Arlovsky being an underdog still. Evil twin, call me crazy. He's all over Walt Harris, but he's evil for a reason. So, on to the 5
Do you have Ryan Hall or BJ Penn?
I have Ryan Hall via submission, round number 2, still.
I feel like I could have Ryan Hall as well, but I think leg kicks.
Okay. Okay. Anything else?
I don't think so. Oh,
So,
I can go
talking-
back and forth on so many of the fights. It's like my heart wants one and my head wants the other.
Agreed. Stick around on those Twitter feeds usually if we end up having a change of hearts. But one we're going to stick with here is Chad Mendes versus Alexander Volkanovski. This is such a fight of the year potential as well. I know we had a couple earlier on in the week, and this is right up there. Perfect stylistic matchup. 2 hobbits going at it. Volkanovski's been getting ready for over 2 months, saying that exact same thing himself. They're both the same size. Volkanovski being 18-1, having a perfect UFC record coming in against the perennial top 5 contender, 18-4, Chad Money Mendes. Money Mendes having a little bit of that experience with the steroids in California. Do you think that benefits him now that he's in Cali feeling good, being like, John Jones is good? Uriah! Give me that juice!
Well, that's where it gets so deep, where
Uriah
we could
Faber,
get
by
into
the
a
way.
whole nother talk about if the UFC lets certain guys get away with this, a la John Jones, a la Brock Lesnar, a la, does it become Uriah Hall or Uriah Faber and all of Alpha Male? Are they, because they play ball and he was young and famous and drove the California scene and the kids liked him, was he allowed to get away with stuff that maybe Dominic Cruz wasn't?
Yes!
You know what I mean? There just becomes a lot of questions about the people that, you know, we've talked about it a lot on this show with like certain countries they fight in and whatever, but it really just adds to that. Like, it's just,
It proves how
it's glaring.
How we can read between the lines and see that there's this other theme going through and whatnot they're not projecting. But still, regardless of all these accusations and reparations that Chad Money Mendes has already taken a 2-year suspension, coming back and beating Miles Jury as of late with a quick 2-minute knockout, round number 1. Chad Money Mendes again fighting the top level constant champion contender, and this is a beautiful prospect to get in against. Volkanovski's looked nothing but good with that Adesanya Daniel Hooker fight team. The New Zealander has done nothing but be a hype train and work well, getting an average of over 100 points on DraftKings. He's definitely a high contender in there for a moneymaker. But against Chad Money Mendes, I see a mirroring image of each other. The better wrestler, Chad Money Mendes, he's the D1 wrestler, where Volkanovski used to be the rugby player who has good driving shots, which we've really highlighted here on the show. But against an actual good wrestler, just like Volkanovski last beat the damage Elkins was able to defend a lot of those shots that Volkanovski's got on lesser opponents. And Darren Elkins doesn't have the best takedown defense, but that does play into effect because Elkins is that alpha male. So Elkins is telling, hey, Money, this is what I really saw in the fight. And they've been working together ever since that win 5 months ago for Volkanovski against the damage himself. Good striker. Volkanovski likes to keep it standing, has really good reaction time, likes to set traps, but I think on the ground, his ground and pound really tends to do well for him. But here against a good wrestler, he's not going to have that. And if anything, Chad Mendes makes his money on that ground and pound striking. Got good boxing, tends to stay to 2-punch combinations for Chad Mendes. But as far as the technical shots come and the technical defense comes, I give the checks to Chad Money Mendes here. I feel like this is kind of a play that I had on Edson Barbosa against Hooker, where this is a humongous step up. Elkins was a big step up. Chad Money Mendes is a top 5 step up. So I feel like this plays out a lot like Hooker. I don't necessarily think it's as necessarily as one-sided as that Barbosa Hooker fight, but I do see Chad Money Mendes checking all the marks. I have a decision here. This is a fun one. I'm really excited about this. I think it could go either way, even though I have Mendes in this. Who do you have in this bout?
I agree. This is that it is Is it the changing of the guard, or is it just not time yet? Like, Chad Mendes is still one of those top guys, but I do think, in my opinion, Chad's just the better version of Volkanovski everywhere.
Agreed.
Just a tad better everywhere. In my head, but that's just could be the caliber of guys I've seen him fight, but is this the new guard taking over the old guard? Right now I have Mendes decision. I just see it being a locking, grind up fight. This is Chad's fight to lose. He could get clipped and not respect Alexander's power enough and get clipped the way we've seen him get clipped by Frankie or clipped by... He got clipped by old school Frankie. I like money here, and I think there's money to be made on money. They both lay out a shit ton of points, so I could see peppering either guy on cards because of how cheap Volkanovski is. It's kind of insane, is my guess.
The actual betting lines, minus 155 favorite, Chad Money Mendes against plus 125 Volkanovski. That's
right.
Rare.
That's
right, but I would say for Volkanovski, that's rare. I think he's favored in a lot of matchups other than top 5 fighters, which Money Mendes is. So totally spot on. DraftKings-wise, you're going to have to end up paying $8,700 for Chad Money Mendes against $7,500 for Volkanovski. I think that line is spot on as well, but I don't see myself playing that much. If anything, maybe more Volkanovski at 7.5 because, again, I do see a decision. I see a good output for either fighter, and out of both fighters, if there was a flash knockout, I would say that Volkanovski is more likely to get it over Mendes than Mendes over Volkanovski. His chin's held up just a bit better in his shorter career.
The version of Chad we just saw was an insane, good-looking version of Chad.
I also think that Miles Jury, so though, has also looked really bad as of late as well, which is why I don't put so much stock into that. But that's a profile fight. Like, that could be a headline of ESPN Fight Night. Easy.
I like it a lot.
What do you think about Volkanovski having a 5-inch reach advantage over Chad Money?
I think everybody has a reach advantage over
That's
him.
what I said.
And he's
Evil
so used
Twin
to
made
getting
it
on
such
the
a point
inside.
of it.
That's how he's used to fighting.
That's what I thought.
That's how he's used to fighting.
Like, everybody's got reach
advantage. That's how
advantage.
he does it. He gets in the inside. It's like, I mean,
Okay.
John Lineker's not a good example to use because he is like ape reach on his little short stature. He has a really long reach for his height, right? Like, in comparison.
Yes.
But yeah, I think that's how Chad's used to fighting. So getting to the inside is just how...
I think the wrestling is going to play a bigger factor than people think because Volkanovski's look good against New Zealand regional wrestlers.
Low ball.
Yeah. And so, anything left with that one? What would you bet on that one? I'd say over 2.5 rounds if there was a random bet. Again, maybe flash knockout Volkanovski. But I do have Money Mendes in that fight decision.
I think it'll go to decision.
Agreed. On to the 205-pounders. We have Amir Latifi versus Corey, is it overtime now? Anderson. I like Beastin 25-8 myself, but Anderson's really looked good as of late. 11-4 record, 2-fight winning streak. He's definitely used his wrestling, which he got away from, was getting knocked out in a little bit. People calling him fairly chinny, but really used his pace and cardio to overwhelm his last 2 opponents. 5 months ago over to share a decision a lot of people didn't see coming. And against Zach Cummings where he blew him out of the water with that wrestling. Amir Latifi, you know, the sledgehammer, the gorgeous man who's always on a stallion running around on the beach, is also on a 2-fight winning streak, coming off of that Bader knockout. He's last beat Tyson Pedro in a decision, and then submission over St. Preux in Orlando, watched by Lesbo and the Bean themselves. OSP didn't have a chance in there once that overhand right landed. That submission or knockout would have come either way, but definitely the power of Latifi always plays a factor. So the interesting thing here, again, we have a D1 wrestler with Corey Anderson, someone who really has started to utilize his wrestling against a European fighter who has good wrestling for a European, but still not that American caliber wrestling. The thing that I think plays for advantage in Latifi is that he's 5'6". I know it says 5'9" or 5'8". I saw him in real life.
He's 5'3". 5'3" in heels.
And he cuts to make a 205 pounds. He is as wide as he is tall.
He's like DC.
Yeah, it's right? It's unbelievable how freaking thick this man is. And against Corey Anderson, he really likes to get that double leg, sweep the legs, turn it over to the side, and dominate on top. He goes for position other than submission a lot of the time. Not tons of power for it. Not tons of power in his shots. But, again, kills you by 1,000 cuts, does Corey Anderson. And LaTB does start to fade, especially in a big grappling heavy fight. Ryan Bader, even though he knocked him out with that knee, he timed it well. I just don't see the strikes, those type of strikes coming from Corey Anderson, even though I like everything I've seen from him as of late. Everybody knows those pictures on a horse have got me all messed up. I've been a LaTB fan for far too long. And I got LaTB for a decision. If not, I think if there's somebody to get the knockout in the fight, it is LaTB. If not, it's a decision Anderson. I still got LaTB decision. I could see a knockout round number 1, 2, or 3 just because Anderson's chin's always been a little suspect. Who do you have in this fight?
LaTB only loses to the champ. Like, he only loses to, like, what, DC? He wants DC
Bader.
fight.
He lost to
keeps
Bader.
Calling it out. The champ!
Ryan Bader.
I know. Oh, he's not the champ yet.
He's at Bellator.
I know. Isn't he the champ?
No, yeah, he's not yet. He's
Not
fighting
yet. He
for
has
it.
to fight Fedor.
Yeah, right.
But I think he's going to win. I had him from the beginning. The champ, Ryan Bader, who I think's a bad motherfucker. So he only loses to the champ. He called out the DC fight last time, so he's already training for that kind of match. If you're calling out DC, you can beat Corey Anderson. I think Corey Anderson's like the lesser version of DC everywhere. Like, he's not as good of a wrestler, not as good as a hitter. He's just kind of that.
I agree.
You know, like, just like this to sound. Like, it's just vanilla.
Yeah, he's not going to blow you out anywhere.
LaTB, he could get caught by Corey. I don't think it can't happen.
Where would you see that catch happening? Is that's what I don't see.
I don't know.
Okay.
I like LaTB everywhere here, and I think he can catch Corey Anderson. I think this is going to be a brawl of a fight. I have LaTB decision, but I do think it's going to be probably like a knockout at the end of round 2, beginning of round 3. I think this is going to be a good fight. This is going to be a swinger.
Oh, yeah. This is a fun one. LaTB throws haymakers from the hip over the top. 8,900 you're going to end up having to pay for him.
Do you think the lines are right?
Against Corey Anderson, 7,300. I do think the lines are right at minus 155 favorite. LaTB against Corey Anderson, I think that's spot on. I'm on the favorite side, though, on that one. Earlier on in the week, though, I have a lot of other underdogs. Be sure to look back at that. There's still some up ahead. Maybe there isn't. But there's money to be made. This is still such a fun fight card. The odds are so close that I could see that line for Anderson LaTB closing up to a minus 115 even. Either fighter.
LaTB Anderson?
Yeah, right?
I don't think it'll get even. I don't know why. The same image, and you probably have it too. Corey Anderson, something about his fight style leaves a really bad taste in my mouth. He seems
he holds on to the fight. He just holds on.
Yeah.
Other than that Cummings fight, he fucking dominated Cummings.
I think something about LaTB's fighting style is getting crisper every time I watch him.
I see an overhand right, one of those little pot of golds on his hip thrown over the right, and it's done. So
I can see that too, or I can see something from the inside and fast, like a jab or an uppercut that we don't even see until we watch it in slow, that we're like, what happened? Did he get like one of those things, because he's so small, get up in the inside with those long-ass monkey arms? And I'm talking about LaTB, so it's not racist.
So it is not racist, just so you know. Moving on, though, to 170 pounds, we have Carlos Condit versus Mike Chiesa. Chiesa moving up to 170 pounds on a 2-fight losing streak, being 13-4. He last lost to Anthony Pettis after he missed weight. Anthony Pettis still able to hurt him with a body shot and then able to submit him via arm triangle. Prior to that, losing to Kevin Lee in a controversial submission before he ever tapped because the ref got in the way. But Carlos Condit, having a long hiatus at 30-12, came back after many injuries, knee injuries, and rehabilitations to lose to Alex Cowboy Oliveira 8 months ago via submission, where that was a bloody fight. Carlos Condit did not just get... It wasn't just a random submission. I mean, he was in a dogfight in there. I love to see the fire in Carlos Condit's gas tank there. I love to see that he's still hungry to be a fighter, but he cuts very easily, and the fights wear on him a lot quicker than they used to. He's notoriously been in a lot of battles, and it's wearing on him. Carlos Condit, for a while, I've been fading him. I just feel like those knee injuries have added up. Takedown defense is nothing against Michael Chiesa, who actually throws, has pretty good shots and actually shoots 2 to 3 times around in there. Tries to get on top. On top, he does his best work. Chiesa off of his back isn't bad at all, but this is just a bigger fade. I could keep breaking it down days for days. Carlos Condit, one of the most handsome guys in there in the top 5. He always gets thrown up with Brad Tavares for me in there. I know he's got a big fanfare from the ladies, but I got the Babylon Brook waterfall haircut of Mike Chiesa at 170 pounds, and I think people are actually going to praise Michael Chiesa after this win and say, oh, Michael Chiesa is going to be a killer at 170.
Do you think they'll say Michael Chiesa's back?
No, because he hasn't ever been at 170. But
he's lost his last 2 fights.
True. That's a good point.
They'll be like, he's back
Someone's
at 170.
At 170 for the first
This is
time.
his weight class. That's why. He's finally in his weight class.
But the more we look at it later on after this fight, it's going to be more Carlos Condit has just been shop worn in there. Striking-wise, Chiesa, one of the worst strikers you'll see in the UFC. He takes 2 punches to get the takedown. That's what he's actively looking for. Get you to the cage. He makes him grinding and dirty. He uses his toughness to get it in the later rounds. And I feel like that's eventually going to happen against Condit. Condit hasn't had tons of power, especially as of late. And once that takedown comes, Condit just kind of eventually looks like a fish out of water. But being out of that Jackson Wink camp, do you think the juice is flowing with Condit?
How dare you say that about my favorite camp? I actually have Carlos in this, and I can't believe he's an underdog against Mike Chiesa. I don't think Michael Chiesa should be able to submit him. The only thing Michael Chiesa should be able to do is submit him, and he's lost his last 2 fights by submission. Mike Chiesa, he doesn't know what a war is. Carlos Condit only comes to go to war. Every single one of his fights is war. You know, even the loss, like you were just saying, to Cowboy. We love Cowboy Oliveira here. That's not a walkthrough fight. Getting submitted by Cowboy, that it says nothing bad about your fight game to me. Going to decision with Neil Magny, you put up with a lot to get to decision with Neil Magny.
Not an easy fight.
I think Neil Magny's a way tougher fight than Michael Chiesa. I think Cowboy's a way tougher fight than Michael Chiesa. Cowboy Oliveira. Damian Maia submission. You and everybody else in the weight class until he fought every 2 months until he started losing to Tyron Woodley's game plan against Colby Covington and then Usman after it. But Carlos Condit was the last guy that had to go down to the maiming of Damian Maia. And then Robbie Lawler split decision. When Robbie Lawler, his last blurble of being the real Robbie Lawler. So this is a big, huge step up to the 170 division. Welcome to the natural born killer. I used to really like Michael Chiesa, but I don't think he has the salt to be UFC caliber.
Ooh, shots fired. Lesbo.
I think he's going to make more money from settling out of court with Conor McGregor than he will ever see in his UFC career.
You might not be off on that. You might not be wrong on that.
I'm going to go with Carlos Condit as my underdog. You ain't going to put him to sleep because Cowboy Oliveira did. Like that, just to think because Cowboy did it, now we're going to give him a submission artist. It's going to happen again. You crazy as hell. Condit decision.
Definitely have good points there. Michael Chiesa, 9,000 on DraftKings against 7,200 for Carlos Conduit via Joey Coco Diaz.
I know, he's so funny.
But Carlos Conduit being the underdog at plus 145 against minus 175 favorite. Mike debuting 170-pounder
And he
Chiesa.
could get fucking submitted in a second as well, and then say he's never going to fight again, and then we'll see him fight in another 5 months.
Out of one FC or Bellator.
No, I still feel probably
UFC.
still UFC.
Mike Chiesa, I have submission round number 2, by the way. I don't know if I necessarily said that. But
Are you going to put him on places?
for 9,000, I don't necessarily know. But I do have so many underdogs that I feel like I am going to put Mike Chiesa probably on like 70%. The real question, betting-wise, do you feel like this goes to the decision?
I do.
I don't. I think either fighter wins it inside some point.
I think it could go to decision. But Michael Chiesa's a quitter. Carlos Condit isn't.
So I feel like it doesn't go the distance. Put your bet where you need to. But to the co-main event we go. We got one that could headline, regardless of whatever anyone else thinks. You could have kept it in Vegas for us. We would have been watching.
You know how I know it can headline? Cowboy. Cris Cyborg. She headlines with nobody. It's her against some fighter we've never heard of. And she headlines cards, pay-per-views all the time. So you're telling me now against Amanda Nunes, a female champion that's beat Miesha Tate and Ronda Rousey. So you can say she's beat the best 2 representation of so far women's MMA up until the point of the last lady fight we just saw. Of Shevchenko, JJ, which
Right.
you're like, that is the best lady fight. It can't get any better than that. Shut the fuck up. Or can it? Because now you step into Christiana, Justino, Cyborg against Amanda the Lioness Nunes. Sorry. This is such a
I
big
love
deal.
it. I love it. This is such a
That was my
profile
Joe
fight.
Rogan.
I loved it. I mean, it is a profile fight. This is again, belt holder at 135 pounds, moving up to the 145 pounds and challenging for the champ, greatest of all time female fighter is Amanda Nunes, and she again has all sorts of credibility to be one of those characters. She has beat the best. She has gone through the toughest. She beat our girl Valentina, champion 125 pounder Shevchenko. So this is twice. Amanda Nunes does not get the credit that she deserves. She's practicing at home with the contender Nina Asnoff herself, her wife, or soon-to-be wife, and maybe fiance. They getting hitched against Christina Cyborg, who is a newfound mom, adopted her niece.
And now, because the fight's moved, Nina doesn't get her new car.
True that. 30% goes to California.
California gets their 30% so that they can give it to Elon Musk so he can fucking build a 1/4 mile of road for $1 billion underground.
True.
And then whatever.
True,
look
then he
up
can
that
smoke
crazy.
weed with Joe Rogan.
And then he can go and smoke weed with Joe Rogan and lose his job.
So, Cyborg, again, the most dominating force we've seen as a female in the UFC. Not many contenders at all in the UFC across any weight division as far as females are concerned. And this is a worthy challenger. Again, Nunes is going to be on that Hall of Fame. I guarantee it. We're going to see it eventually. Amanda Nunes will have a banner in the Hall of Fame. So is Christiana Cyborg. And this is a Legends match we're seeing before its time. Interesting factors for all of this. There is Christiana Cyborg, who moves forward nonstop. Leon herself, Amanda Nunes, has seen this before. She's been able to counter-strike with a stiff left hand that usually hurts people. Everybody who's felt it has said, damn, she punches like a man. Cupcake herself said, Amanda Nunes punches like a man. And
She was been only, at best, taking a punch from Brian Caraway. Let's be real. At best. At best.
so take that with what you will, but Nunes does hurt. People do change their game plans once they get hit once. Mike Tyson said it best, hey, your game plan goes out the door once you get hit in the mouth. But what we've seen with Christiana Cyborg, she challenges people on all sorts of level, going into Muay Thai and boxing just to get that thrill in there. I would say natural athlete, but hey, if Jon Jones is on the card, Christiana Cyborg knows a bit or two about steroids. Just look at her past, and she's been clean forever. Don't worry if Tess comes down the line. Tess comes, and weird stuff happens. I'm just saying, it sucks. I know you don't, but you fool me once, shame on you. You can't fool me twice. And Christiana Cyborg has had a couple of those 2 and 3 time type of moments in her career. But either way, back to the actual fight techniques of things.
Silva.
Agreed. She is also going to be a Hall of Famer.
It's normal. It's normal.
Here at LaTB, the Bean always likes to proclaim straight punches beat looping punches. And for me, the straight puncher is Amanda Nunes. The looping puncher is Christiana Cyborg. Christiana Cyborg has all the technique in the world, but will throw it out the window just to move forward to eventually get you to the ground and pound you. We know she's has the legendary cardio where Amanda Nunes does tend to hold on in that 4th and 5th round. And we've seen her there a few times now, and we've seen it consistently as far as I've seen. That those 3rd and 4th rounds, she's really just holding on to those first 3 rounds to win it, where Cyborg gets better as the fight goes on. As that a counter striker, more Amanda Nunes, Cyborg more the pressure fighter. So stylistically, this favors Nunes a lot more than most other fighters. I just see that this is way closer of a fight than people have it, and I feel this is one for the ages. I am really excited to see this. I do think Cyborg gets hurt in here a few times, but I do think that she eventually gets this fight up against the cage and to the ground. And Amanda Nunes is a black belt. Off of her back, she triangles and arm bars with the best of them against another black belt, Christiana Cyborg, over her. This is one of those that actually benefits the fighter because Cyborg lives in California. So now the weight cut doesn't have to go all the way to Vegas.
She gets to actually go home.
It's actually maybe potentially better for her in this weird circumstance. But
she can cut at her home gym. She can do everything in her...
Everything, whatever that means. A little bit of extra orange juice in the morning.
Are you saying what I think you're saying? Cris Cyborg tainted Jon Jones's piss?
Nah, I'm just saying.
It
might have got mixed up. It might have been just a teaspoon.
I come with
of
like
horse
most
meat.
ridiculous, like, what?
Teaspoon of it. So I have Christiana Cyborg in a 5-round decision. But I do think that this is way closer than people have it. I'm edging the favorite here. Who do you have in this fight? I love this fight. I'm so excited for this fight.
I agree. It is one for the ages. I want to be careful how I say it because I am kind of an Amanda Nunes hater on the show. I know I always... Her caliber of people she's gone against compared to Cris Cyborg's are... night and day difference by name. But when you really break it down, the hardest fights that Amanda Nunes has had is Valentina Shevchenko decision twice. The first time she decisioned was against fresh out of Muay Thai Amanda, I think it might have been Shevchenko's very first fight in the UFC or second fight in the UFC.
Yeah, fresh in her UFC career. It was
very fresh, just in her MMA career to even know MMA out of Muay Thai. It was a different Valentina. And then the second fight, it was super close. Now knowing what we know and even seeing Valentina's body, seeing Valentina's weight cut, seeing her everything, her natural weight is 125. Amanda Nunes she had to actually set the fight the second time because she couldn't really make the 135, which I say this is a desperate plea because her body doesn't want to make 135 anymore at all. So she wants this belt so that she can walk away from that altogether because she'd rather not anymore is what I think. But Cris is something different. If you walk through every single one of Amanda Nunes wins, I want to go through those fights and just put Christina Cyborg in those fights. Valentina Shevchenko, 3-round decision. Christina, a 3-round against Valentina Shevchenko coming in to the UFC against Christina Cyborg. She would have probably been ground and pound KO'd in the 3rd round is just my guess. And I love the bullet. And then I like to say Miesha Tate. Oh, Miesha, you're fucking KO'd round 1. Round 1, you're done. You're not submitting, Christina, so you're done. So that same... She busted ass Miesha Tate, who was done with UFC. Amanda Nunes didn't KO her. Remember that fight. She busted her fucking face. Didn't KO her. She submitted her that fight. She didn't have the power to KO busted ass over the hill Miesha Tate. And I love Miesha. You know how much I love Miesha. So then we go into Ronda Rousey. That was not even mentally fucked up, never ready to fight again. Ronda Rousey, who just got really finished handedly by Holly Holm, who really knocked her the fuck out. Did she get finished by Amanda Nunes? Was it a fucking KO? No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. So now we come into the Rocky Pennington fight. That was nasty as hell. We were like, we don't know if Rocky walked in fresh off a weird knee surgery. They were desperate to get Amanda Nunes fighting in the year. Like, it was not supposed to be. That was a weird fight. So, and then the Valentina split decision. Maybe the best version of Valentina could go to split decision with Christina Cyborg, like the best version, but none of us would want to see, we would not feel comfortable with it. So now you're going against Cyborg, who you can walk through a record and it's a whole bunch of no-name, like Tanya Evinger, bad bitch. She's a bad bitch. She doesn't get anything. Lena Landsberg, whatever. She shouldn't even be in the conversation with these women. I'm just giving Tanya Evinger her due. Lena Landsberg, you're not in here. Leslie Smith. Leslie Smith's a bad bitch. KO. Done. Leslie Smith. Was it an early stoppage?
That was early.
Early stoppage,
that was
yes.
Early.
But it would have been a finish anyway. Our girl didn't need to take any more damage from that. Now, Holly Holm's decision to me, a decisive decision. Decisive decision. So, and I think Holly Holm beats Amanda Nunes. I stand in a weird spot with that fight. So I think Cris has better boxing. It's crisper. She has the better stand-up game. I do think Amanda Nunes is dangerous on the ground. And yeah, you punch like a man. Cool. Guess who's been hit by men?
Truth.
So
Truth.
I do think this is the fight that Cris needs to ever get the real respect from the haters. Because Amanda Nunes has fucking beat all the people that would never step up and ever fight Cris Cyborg.
Agreed.
They all thought they could take Amanda, but none of them ever, they respected Cyborg too much. So Amanda's the one that doesn't respect Cyborg.
This is such a profile fight.
And it's not because she doesn't just, there's inside info. They're like same camp, what do they have? Do they have any of the same people?
No, I feel like Amanda Nunes has been over out of Florida mainly, and now she's over, not necessarily in New Mexico. She's been training out of American Top Team, but that's not correct. I know her and Asnaroff have moved, I believe, over into the Rocky Mountains with their entire fight camp. I can't think of it off the top of my head. Yeah, they've been away from Top Team for a while now because they again saw that structure of like
getting shaky a little.
Yeah, it was weird. They learned what they had needed to
Is she the young lioness wanting to take Cyborg's throne, or do you think Cyborg 33? She's in her prime now.
She's in her prime.
She's in her, especially for a lady, right?
I think as the fight goes on, as I'm saying, the decision, I could actually, and I like to do this in my bets that just there's always value on it. Round 4 or 5, if there's a finish, I see it being Cyborg, especially in those later rounds. As I said, she comes on more and Nunes fading, but minus 265 favorite Christiana Cyborg 9,200.
I think you're underestimating too. Everybody also saying, "Oh, Amanda hits like Amanda hits like man." What's Cyborg hit like?
Truth.
What's Cyborg hit like?
If
I said you had to take one of the punches, who would you rather get hit by once? Like one clean punch.
Oh, I don't know.
I would say Lioness hit me. Hit me.
I would say neither. I'd say take the money.
Neither all day.
Take the money.
But I'm just saying, like, it's Cyborg's a queen in her own right, and I know it's a lot of. She hasn't had the experience, like, or the inside the octagon during the time, but.
With the legend Cyborg. It is such a good fight. But I do think that the favorite of minus 265 is over. I think that Lioness has a much better shot in there to squeak out a decision in there.
I like decision.
I would be more comfortable with, like, there's value in Lioness at this big of an underdog for sure. She can always land that big punch. At 7,000 on DraftKings, do you think you're going to play Amanda Nunes anywhere?
The hardest punch, just in your brain, that Amanda Nunes has ever taken is Valentina Shevchenko.
Okay.
Compared to Christina Cyborg. I love my girl Bullet, but she's a cut you by 1,000 cuts kind of girl.
For sure.
She's not a power girl. So I go into decision with Holly Holmes. I think Holly Holmes has power like an MF. I used to be a Holly Holm hater. She has a wide ass back. She got the shoulders laid in. But I also like Cyborg's stance. She's all curled up and
Muay Thai,
stuff.
baby. She's on Muay Thai style. But
Who has the better leg kicks?
I'd say Nunes.
Better takedowns.
I want to say Nunes throws better takedowns, but Cyborg takes you down more often because Cyborg pushes you up with the fence, drags you down. She uses more of that. She'll bury her head, move forward, land 3 punches, eat 2 punches. And I feel like Nunes is a more technical fighter here, but the more power and cardio advantage goes to the bulldozer, Christina Cyborg. I think Cyborg eats shots, and again, as you're saying, she walks through them. She's been hit by men before. Her husband used to beat her ass, where she got her name from. Domestic abuse, that's actually okay because they were in the gym, throwing that out there. Tito Ortiz said, first time he met, her husband kicked her in the head as hard as anyone's ever been kicked. And she cried for a bit, got up and swung on him. And he's like, this lady's going to be a champ. And now, since then, she started MMA with Tito Ortiz. That's his first introduction to her. Just throwing that out there, Christina Cyborg, I love you! I love you!
It is by far, though, the most amount of experience.
Profile fight. I mean, this could headline a pay-per-view.
I love it. And weigh-ins could come, and I could love the way Amanda looks, or not. Weigh-ins could come, and Chris could push Amanda, and I could change her mind.
100%. This is such a fun fight. I'm so excited.
It's a great fight.
I'm surprised we got another one ahead of us. I thought it would have been taken off the card because somebody popped on steroids, but officially not enough steroids.
What is it? Like, is that
Tyranobol, T-ball.
Is that a lady hormone or a hormone blocker or something?
I believe it's a mass builder. It helps even maybe get water out of your muscles, but it does help build like fast twitch mass. I'm totally blowing that out of my ass. That's bro science, but that's back in the day when I looked into that stuff and was like, not for me, not for the bean. I'm organic over here.
Everybody's on steroids.
Everybody is on steroids, but I researched it and then was like, I ain't about that life. I ain't about that life. Apparently,
vocal
somebody
cords
who is
are a muscle.
Truth. Are you gonna play? Sorry, I know I'm going back, even though I was getting into this main event. We finally got there. But Amanda Nunes for 7,000. I actually think I might play her a little bit on DraftKings.
I feel like on my main event cards, I could see both ladies coupled up here.
Stacking them in the same card.
I think Amanda Nunes
You're not
for
going to win a tournament,
7,000
but you'll get cash.
Could she get an evil body shot that wrecks her? Could she be a quitter because of cardio and never being hit by the power of Cyborg and just turn the F down? This is the most amount of work Amanda Nunes has ever had to put into a fight. Ever. I still think the fucking worst Amanda Nunes has got to give us 3 rounds. That is what. Yes, I think worth the value she could
at 7,000, right? She could be as well.
Really
I could
worth the
spatter
value.
her some, and
she might be more valuable than Cyborg.
I could see that as well. But I could also see Cyborg finishing in the 4th and 5th round,
or just being like, We're like, oh my god.
Her and John Jones were hanging out right before the main event started, or the co-main event started.
And we also know American Top Team has a. Let me just put this little thing out there. Out there. No, but when she took the fight, were they her camp? Because American Top Team has a way of, we saw with JJ, not making their fighters take responsibility for their losses, and like also feeding them with like maybe not the right school of like, you're a champion, you're the best ever,
right? You're
the with another woman.
I think both her and Asnerov have done better at their camp since they've both moved over.
Or I think the fighter here's another perspective. How has Tisha Torres done this year as a fighter? How has Rocky Pennington done this year as a fighter? Is it great that Amanda Nunes moved out there? Just another idea.
Just a thought. But back to just a thought. I'm
being a Justino biased and Nunes hater.
We are on to the 205-pound main event, pay-per-view. The whole reason we're here.
Amanda's like, she's taken out all my girls.
Yeah, 100%.
She has taken 100%. Out all my girls.
It's going to be a fun one. Gonna be a fun one. Another one that they're making happen regardless of what anybody thinks. Jon Jones is at it again. If you haven't heard, you're living under a rock. If you haven't liked and subscribed, you got to do us a favor, and for the holidays, just hit that even notification on that YouTube, just so that you get posted up to date the video feed. Even though we make our money here, podcasting, making free bets on that Twitterverse. You know, the Bean throws out free bets. There's many to be had, but officially, I am going to have some before the fight card
ends
out.
Zoltanite, at Weakneck Baby is me, at Zoltanite you, at Lesbo and the Bean is our account, and we're on Instagram, probably on Facebook. I don't know. Don't quote me on that. And
what you can quote us on is...
Tell your brother-in-law over the holiday.
Tell your evil twin. Yeah. Whoever that may be, they may not have to be your twin, just that one doppelganger that you're like, you could see it in their eye.
There might be someone on the street you pass every day. They might be sitting on a park bench and just be like, excuse me, mister, you are one sexy motherfucker, and I think we look alike.
But that goatee gives
like,
it away.
Get away from me, lady.
So, this has been a rematch in the making for quite some time. Alexander Gustafson did put in a Fight of the Year contender with Jon Jones, who was now, in hindsight, coked up and drugged up, being at the nightclub 2 nights before this main event, notoriously not being at the gym. Jackson Wink saying, like, oh, we didn't see that guy for, like, days and days, and then he came in and gave one of the fights of the year. A lot of people saying that's the reason it was so close is because Jon Jones was actually not taking it seriously, which gave a chance to Gustafson. But what I will say is anybody else who's thought Alexander Gustafson has never said it's an easy fight. Ask anybody. This man is definitely on point. The 18-4 Swedish fighter has coming off of a 2-fight winning streak, beating Jan Blachowicz and Glover Teixeira in a TKO, which is not an easy feat, over a year, 6 months ago. The interesting correlation that these two fighters have is that they've only both fought twice in the last 4 or 5 years. Gustafson's have been out due to hand injury, knee injury, shoulder injuries, and Jon Jones, we know, has a myriad of legal issues that have kept him out, not necessarily injuries. For me, the fresher fighter, even though they've both had long layoffs, is still Jon Jones. And if you know one of these guys is cheating, Oliveira style, who cares? Take 20%, take 30%, take half a pay-per-view, take a whole pay-per-view. I don't care. I'm winning this fight. Jon Jones. These are the type of guys we like to bet on. Even though I don't agree with the cheating aspect or the tainted supplement, I think that he knew. I think that the microdosing is real. I think that if you have enough money, you can get around these tests. Nowitzki said it himself. It could either be from him doing it back in the day or he did it as of late. But
either way, he did it.
Either
way, he did it, and he didn't do enough time. If it was really in his system however long ago, then how is he off in 14 months?
Well, they're questioning the science, but this has so many other signs of, what did you call it, FAA?
FAF.
FAF, definitely fuckery afoot. But in this fuckery, the benefit goes to Jon Jones. Jon Jones! It goes to him. If anything, we know he's on the juice. Okay, put more money on that. That minus 900 he got on the first bout is now to minus 285 favorite Jon Jones. And I still think that line is actually right. I see Jon Jones that's actually training and wants to get in there and more focused than he was in the first fight. Against still a scary opponent in Alexander Gustafson. I just see it's a lot more of the same. A lot of these rematches we see where, oh look, they took off from the 5th round back into the next 5 rounds. I feel like that's going to be the same thing. If not, I see Jon Jones growing more just a bit. I don't know if it's biased, but hey, we got someone wanting to win and trying whatever he can, and he keeps getting caught, and it doesn't deter him. So winning ways stay afoot for Jon Jones. I got Jon Jones for the win. Late round TKO. I say he finishes it round 4 or 5. Put a bet on it. The Beans told you many a times you could don't put your whole bankroll, but just throw a little flyer on 4th or 5th round, and those finish props are always plus money in those rounds. I don't know how it happens via submission or TKO, but I do have Jones winning this. Who do you have in this fight?
John Jones has been inside of a garage somewhere working on his boxing. That's all he's been doing for the last X amount of time, and I think he can actually go in there and he probably hand selected this fight. Are we going to see John Jones in a dress? Is there a different conspiracy afoot here? Why was Alexander Gustafson on a 4-hour tour of the Grand Canyon by helicopter who couldn't be reached until like a 4-hour time period?
Great point.
After Dana and Nowitzki. There's so much fuckery. I don't think there's any money to be made on Gus being the champion.
Agreed, right? All ties show that everyone wants John Jones to win.
Yeah, everything. It says that the whole UFC is behind you. They're setting up your path, and if they have anything to do with it, they want that DC John Jones 3 money. They would put poor DC in there again to get boop!
To get head kicked into oblivion again.
Isn't it funny how the UFC has their last fight as a draw and not a loss? Isn't that a draw? Like
against
you
Daniel
either
Cormier.
won or you didn't. You either cheated or you didn't. But it's a piece of sand in a swimming pool. Well, how come I don't have sand in a swimming pool? How come you don't have sand in a swimming pool? There's so many fighters that don't have a piece of sand in a swimming pool. How long does this drug take to get? Well, our technology is getting better and better and better. Well, how come other fighters aren't starting to pop for things
great call.
that are, there's too much fishery here. It makes me know USADA is not real. We also know that sometime after the beginning of 2019, we're also going to hear new rules on drug testing altogether. So I just don't agree with this. They want John Jones to win, and what we've seen from the UFC, regardless of even the bad decision, whoever they want to win, wins. That's usually the way it works unless you're T. Woodley. So, unless that's that whole shtick, like, you're going to be the guy that hates me. Like, that's our shtick. Like, you'll build this audience for us. Can you imagine if it's just like wrestling for as far as their characters go? Colby Covington, you're going to get our conservative vote, so you're going to be the guy that meets Trump and wears the MAGA hat. And, like, can you imagine, Connor, you wear the fuck you pinstripe and you're going to, peddle whiskey and you're going to be this guy for us. And John Jones, you're going to be this. There's no money to be made from Swedes.
So, for 9,100 on DraftKings against the 7,100 Gustafson, I see actually kind of a play on Gustafson as well here.
I totally see a play on Gus here. I don't. If you finish this motherfucker, it ain't going to be till the fucking round 5.
4 or 5, right?
Yeah,
that's what I'm
round
thinking.
5. Oh,
maybe if it happens. If it happens. I agree with that. But again, everything is saying they want John Jones to win this fight. They want to make money. They want to have LaTB wait a whole nother episode before they get their LaTBeezies out. If you haven't subscribed or get that notification button going, because we got to start studded event after this main event. We're going to break it down the morning after, correct? Because it is a pay-per-view.
It will be a morning after, yep, on Sunday. Unless something crazy happens in between, but let's not even say it.
But it's true.
Like
it's
the
true.
second
This is
we
a John Jones fight.
Unrecord, something crazy will unfold.
Right, as soon as we start to upload it to the Twitterverse, then John Jones is going to pop for hitting a pregnant lady while on steroids and smoking meth and being on DMT and all sorts of crazy stuff.
It'll be crazy.
Unbelievable.
It'll be crazy.
Unbelievable. John Jones once saved an old lady from getting mugged and a crackhead and won the championship that night against Glover Teixeira to now is this. Wow, how far we've come.
John Jones, did he really do all that stuff, or was that just UFC peddling?
Propaganda?
We just keep bugging it up.
Oh, damn.
You just keep bugging it up. Even Nike, once you're in Nike, there's got to be some conspiracy there. Look at, how did Michael Jordan's dad die? Somebody loved gambling. Oh.
Damn.
It looks like if you're a Nike athlete, things might be willing to happen for you. I'm just saying. I don't know that for sure. Allegedly.
I think we leave it with that.
I know. I think that is where we finish it. John Jones!
Let's run the beat!
Thanks for listening to LaTB. For all things Lesbo and the Bean, head over to lesboandthebean.com or follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter.